Now that you've imported your first data set, let's go through the rest of the layers that we're looking for to make our citizen science project work. Once you've installed the year 2000 plantation data set, the next is the current plantation data set. Let's go through that import process again. Go to File, Import, choose the Citizen Science folder, go to GIS Files, and the next that you will need is this data set in a folder FCNSW HWD PLT Resource Unit, and then you'll import HWT PLT Resource Unit.shp. And once you have that in Google Earth Pro, sometimes you'll get this dialog when you want to change colors or change outlines. Share style is fine. Here we are magenta or purple, width 3, and outlined again. These two data sets together are important as they help you distinguish between how plantations were established in 2000 and how much of a land grab has occurred since then. This is the Forestry Corporation of New South Wales Coastal Integrated Forestry Operations Approval Compliant Land Units. What a terrible name. That's basically all the logging compartments within the different state forests. This is important for you as it will help you determine in which compartment certain plantations are located within particular state forests. Once you start communicating with forestry, you need to be able to tell them what areas you're talking about. Here are the New South Wales dedicated state forests, and these are the delineated boundaries of each of the state forests, and each of the state forests is named within the metadata when you click on it. This is the same for the compartments themselves. Here we have the particular name and number of the compartment. The plantable area is also very important for us, as it helps us identify exactly how much of the plantations are located within the plantable area, and potentially how much extra forest land is available to forestry should it want to extend its plantations. This is a particular concern for this area at the moment at Tucker's Knob, where well over half of the area that is proposed for logging is actually native forest. And associated with the plantable area is the retained vegetation. There is very little retained vegetation inside New South Wales hardwood plantations. You have to go a long way to find it. But this is useful to know, again, when it comes to identifying if some of the areas that you think are remnant native forest inside the plantations are going to be logged. It's worth checking first to see if they are retained vegetation or not. Another important layer is the New South Wales plantation estate. I should just of course go back and remind you the plantable area is red for us and the retained vegetation is yellow. The forestry area compartments are green. The dedicated state forest boundaries are white. And for us, something slightly different with the New South Wales Parks Estate, because we're not really interested in what's going on inside the parks themselves. These are orange and they are filled orange. The reason I have done this is so that we can see them in relation to the state forests and the plantable area. Here, for example, you can see just how close Bindari National Park comes to bordering the native forest inside the plantable area of this particular set of compartments in Tucker's Knob State Forest, which local campaigners are currently campaigning to protect because of the native forest inside the plantation. So the Park Service is filled and orange. More for interest's sake, but important when it comes to identifying how important certain areas are and how they have been affected by fire, is the NIFED _201 190 701 etc. etc. This is the data set that shows the most recent bushfires. This is quite a large data set, and one is really pushing Google Earth Pro when it comes to importing this. So here you can see the fire boundary, and we have this set at yellow with an opacity of 50%, so that you can see underneath it. Because again, it's the plantations and the state forests that we want to see rather than have it completely filled and not being able to see what's going on underneath. And then one final data set which is useful in terms of local government and thinking about in whose shire certain forests are, is the New South Wales local government area sets of polygons as well. And these I have delineated in red. I know that clashes with the plantable area, but we have a limited palette and we don't really use these that often. And then here you'll notice in temporary places, this is also inside the Citizen Science folder. I just want to show them to you. They're large and unstable, so I tend to keep these two, if I do import them, in my temporary places. I use them and then I delete them before I quit Google Earth Pro because of their size. But these are delineated in blue, and again with a width of 3 and outlined. As you can see, there are a lot of them, and it's possible that Google Earth may quit on me while I am doing this. This particular data set, or the two data sets that we have, show the vegetation status and class within the area that we're working in, which is largely the mid-north coast of New South Wales. There is an upper northeast data set and a lower northeast data set. And I can tell you how to get hold of these data sets if you don't have them already and you're looking for other areas in New South Wales. This data set is particularly important when it comes to showing how forestry manages to subsume forest into its plantation estate. So again, we'll go back to the area in conglomerate, where forestry swallowed up this plantation area into a larger plantation and actually annexed this area. This is quite an interesting operation when we do that, because I will now click on here. This is a polygon. This is a 67.57 hectare area that is classified as recently disturbed. This is the RFA, or Regional Forest Agreement, data set from the mid-90s. Interestingly, this area has no status at all. You can already see by looking at it that it's old growth and existed before this area was disturbed for plantation establishment. And now, because of that instability, I'm going to say that I've used it, I'm finished with it, I'm going to delete it, and of course nothing is lost because we have this data set in our Citizen Science folder. And now, of course, as I've deleted, the machine is having quite a lot of trouble processing all those shapefiles and removing it from the data set. So at this juncture, I'm going to say that I've walked you through all the layers that you need. They're available in the Citizen Science folder under GIS, and please install them. They will help you in your really exciting detective work.